You're listening to the Lux Life Discovered podcast, where we talk with people who are living a lifestyle that reflects their passion, because we believe everyone should be living their best life, their Lux Life. The show is hosted by Rick Steiner with Steiner Event Group, a premier national event planning company, and co-hosted by Shannon Richmond, the Vice President of the Panama City Beach Chamber of Commerce. If you are watching on YouTube, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell to get notifications of future episodes. The show is produced by 30A Media and is broadcast on your favorite podcast outlets, as well as YouTube, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TVs, and other major brand smart TVs.
Hello, I'm Rick Steiner. Welcome back to Lux Life Discovered. My guest today is Arlette Godges. Arlette, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
I tell you, it's like peeling back, layers of an onion, because one thing I thought we were going to talk about, just from our brief little conversation before we started, I think there's a lot to discover here. So that's what makes this podcast fun, because sometimes you have a certain route you think you're going to go, and then you chase a rabbit, and learn so much more, and that makes it fun. So tell us a little about yourself, your background, and we'll start there.
Okay, I'm a physical therapist by training. I'm board certified in orthopedics and geriatrics. I became geriatric certified when I turned 50, and I thought that, life just keeps going on in a really wonderful way. And then I realized that people are really treated by age and not by function. And I realized that there's this enigma of humans out there that are aging really well. And we're being put into this pot of people that can't do anything. And so I decided to really know more about it scientifically so I could apply that at my work, but also for myself. And
Okay.
it has sort of morphed into a wellness company. I do some coaching. I'm also a competitive athlete, have been one all my life. And so it's led to an Instagram because I was sort of, quote unquote, bullied into it by friends. And it grew to 80,000 followers like that. And my audience is people that are interested in aging up well and doing fun things as their decades move on.
You brought out a good point, several good points. You're saying first is that as we're old, get age, like I'm 65, I'm in my mind, I'm too young to be old and too old to be young. You know what I'm saying? So, and you watch how people treat you as you get older. And it's not really a matter of what we can or can't do. It's just their perception of like, oh, you've reached that age and you need to slow down, or you can't do as much. So you
Right.
kind of deal with that and people facing that, right?
I do very much so. And what stands out to me is that the medical profession is very much of the mindset that, when of treating people by their birthday instead of by what their abilities are and what they can do. And we in our medical system are very reactionary in treatment. We treat people's balance, and we treat their ability to walk and move and have range of motion after they have lost it or they've had an accident. And I'm of the mindset that it's really important to prevent those kind of things. And so that's more of my approach, is doing balance training and rehabilitation preventatively, and keeping people moving and keeping them doing the activities that they love to do.
Okay. That's great, because that's so important, because, and I'm sure you've seen this too, there are many people that get us our age, well, you're younger than I am, but get my age. And then all of a sudden it's like, because they're at a certain age, they feel like they need to just stop. And my parents were that way. They reached a certain age, and it was just kind of an understood, somewhere in their mindset that, okay, we don't need to do anything anymore.
You bring up a good point, Rick, but it's not just that it's a mindset thing, but people are social and they go out with friends, and then they have a friend that, God forbid, had a fall and fractured their hip. And a lot of people do. And that is often the end of activities and the end of life, actually. So 50% of people that break a hip over the age of 70 end up dead within 18 months.
Really?
So
I didn't,
it's an absolutely staggering statistics of the morbidity caused by falling and breaking a hip. And it's not the hip fracture actually that kills people. It's then everything else starts
Starts to
snowballing
decline.
downward. And that's the real scary part. So preventing falls is hugely important, and people think that when you have Parkinson's, for example, or you have neuropathy from diabetes, or God forbid you've had a stroke, then you don't want to walk because I don't want to fall. And actually, the very worst thing to do is to stop walking and to stop moving.
Right.
If I had a wish, it would be that every nursing home and every assisted living would push people to walk and not stick them into wheelchairs because we lose reciprocal motion and we lose the ability to walk. You're really on a downward slope and it's super sad. It also affects people's minds at that point. So we need to
Yes.
keep moving, and that is why it is so important that we maintain balance and strength and muscle mass. And few people dare to go to the gym. Sometimes they think, oh, I'm over 50. I don't look good at a gym. I can't do so much. And they just stop going and they lose muscle mass very quickly, especially women.
Right. My mother-in-law is 86 and she walks 3 miles in the morning, 3 miles in the evening. And if she gets less than 20,000 steps in a day, you would think she's just ruined her life. And so even in like when it's winter here sometime, and sleeting, she's out walking. And my wife is like, Mom, you can miss a day. Nobody's going to like penalize you for it. And her reaction is, I'm afraid if I ever stop, I'm one excuse closer to not doing it the next time.
I
And
like her.
yeah, she's something else. I mean, I say we have to watch her. We can't say anything because she's very strong-willed. And so like if a tree falls on her property, she'll get her tractor out, hook a chain to it, bring it behind the pond to the burn pile, or she'll get on top of her Kubota, I mean her mule, the little four-wheeler thing,
Right?
with a reciprocating saw to cut the limbs off the tree so the tractor won't hit it when she mows. And you know,
Amazing.
she's something else. So now tell me, okay, you said you were a competitor in college, is that right? Did you?
Yes, I've been a competitive swimmer really all my life. I
Okay.
started even before high school and I swam Division 1 in college and then just kept swimming, and now I've swam masters ever since. And I just aged up this year to the 60 and up group and went to Doha, Qatar for World Championships in February
Mhm.
and won 2 events. And then just this past weekend, my team and we set for 4 world records for our new age group. And I think they'll stand a while because the last one stood a while as well. And we just absolutely crashed them. So it was super
That's,
fun and
yeah,
motivating.
that's amazing. That's really, I just can't even imagine. That's impressive for sure. So we kind of had our connection through a mutual friend that neither one of us have ever met. We just discovered that. So which is really the power of the internet and social media today. But Todd Anthony Tyler, who he's been on my podcast several times. He also does our men's style segment once a quarter, and super sharp young man. And he had sent me your information, and I like I said in the beginning, it's like peeling back layers of an onion because my goal was to talk to you about the reason he sent your link to me, but then there's so much more to this. But let's talk a little bit about your walking adventure across Scotland.
Well, that was an absolute incredible experience. And it came to me through Todd. And at first, I wasn't really sure what I was getting myself into. Actually, I really honestly didn't know what I was getting myself into until the day before I started.
Oh
Um,
wow.
I did know I was going hiking. I did know I was doing a podcast. Wasn't quite sure what that looked like because I had a cameraman with me for part of it. Really amazing young man from Edinburgh, and we really connected and had a lot of fun together because he's my oldest son's age, and we just had a lot to chat about. and I learned a lot about the history with him. I had read up about the West Highland Way, and it's a 96 stretch of hiking that is maybe, akin to the Appalachian Trail in some way. Very famous, people love it. It's riddled with historical sites and lots of historical myths and fables and all of that, along with some really great distilleries, along with amazing inns that we stayed at. And yeah, I didn't really know how much of it I was actually going to hike. And then I found out I'm hiking the whole thing. And most people do it in about 8 or 9 days, and I ended up doing it in 6.5.
Did you?
So I had a few quite, big days of hiking, which were great. And I had brought 2 pair of hiking boots because, as we were just talking about, I'm a swimmer, and my feet are very soft, and I need like different types of shoes on different days because I didn't want to get blisters and be hampered by that.
Right.
So anyways, it was absolutely fabulous. Like I said, I was um, met by this guy for part of it, but I did a big chunk by myself. And it was actually amazing. I would see the same people at night at the pub, or on the trail, or in the morning at breakfast. So really an incredible experience. And the countryside there is just spectacular.
So you went through different towns along the way and
Yes, and
a
some
lot
of
of
them,
different.
I mean, I think I hiked 3 full days without seeing a car.
Oh, wow.
And then I ended up in a town that had, was a little bit more commercial. And by that, I mean, it had a gas station and it had a bus stop and a little bit more infrastructure than the other places that I'd seen on the way. And it was almost a culture shock. I felt like I just walked into New York City.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. All of a sudden you're like, there's civilization. Yeah.
Yes. But I will say every single place that I stayed at, and they were all amazing. Some were a little bit more simpler than others, but they all had amazing food, and they all had a full bar of whatever, scotch you could get, and a full bar of beer. And they were quite fun and very liberal for tastings. And the people in Scotland were just absolutely delightful. English is my second language. I grew up in Europe. And so I think of English as how we speak. And, I'm familiar with British English, but boy, in Scotland, it's a whole different thing. You're like,
Oh,
well,
really?
is this really English, or what are you speaking? Yeah, very funny.
That's great. That's great. So what was there anything along the hike that you were concerned about? I mean, that's a lot, 96 miles, that's not a short distance. So,
No, I know I was in shape to do that. I mean,
right.
that wasn't the issue for me. Like I said, the only thing that was concerning to me were my feet as far as blisters, but I had really good shoes and really good socks, and I had prepared for it, and I had brought things, but I really didn't get blisters, so that was great.
That's good.
So otherwise I was fine. And I will say it's a hike that I would not recommend to most people to do it in such a short time. I think hiking about 8 to 10 miles a day is would be more pleasant for most people. And it's very possible to do that. And there's plenty of inns to do that. You just stay a little bit, you stay a little bit closer to another, you stay at villages where I passed through.
Right.
Um, there was one day that was a bit sporty, I would say, and it was also gorgeous, but it was very well marked as far as there were 2 ways to go at one point, and it was as advertised. One was much more sporty. The other was a little bit less altitude changing and a little bit easier to do. I
So you
went
went the sporty way, right?
and it was, at times I had to put one foot literally in front of the other because the path was so narrow,
Oh,
and
wow.
there were some really big inclines that kind of went right through the forest. And the Mel Gibson movie that was filmed there,
Right.
Brockhart.
Yes.
So if you look at those scenes, I walked right through there. I
Oh, wow.
actually walked on the meadow where they had set up the main village.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah, so it really looks just like that. It's incredible. And so, and anybody that is on foot that could train for this and could do that or set that as a goal, that is just interested in being active and having a really active, fun vacation. So it truly was magnificent. One of the things that stands out to me is, and I'm probably the only one that did not know this, but in the Disney movies, they have those mushrooms, those red mushrooms with the white dots.
Right.
Okay, so I love them. I just think they're really cute and fun, and I thought they were completely made up in Disney movies. Well, those mushrooms actually grow there.
Really?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
and
See, yeah, I didn't
and
know
they're
that.
enormous. I mean, like huge. They're bigger than like dinner plates. They're enormous.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah, so
So
I
it's
was
really legit. Okay.
yes.
Interesting.
So
Yeah.
I mean, that was one of the things that totally stood out on the trip. And it's kind of a silly thing, but I was just absolutely obsessed with those things and took lots of pictures of them. So
Yeah. And it's fun to go to other places and see things that you don't know that they really do exist, and you're surprised, and all of a sudden it makes you realize, wow, that's why travel is so important.
right. And I love traveling, and I've traveled vastly in the world and seen a lot. And so to me, Scotland, I had never been, and it was super fun, and it really was all that it promised to be. The other thing that I absolutely fell in love with was uh, the cows. They're those fuzzy, they're called Highland cows,
Yeah.
and they're really cute. I mean, they're super, super cute. They are they're this golden brown color, and they're very, very fuzzy, and they have these long bangs, and they're super friendly. And I think more people, not just, I'm not the only one that's obsessed with them, but when they are in farms that you walk by, they know that they get petted and the people treat them really nicely. So they all come up, and it's quite fun.
Interesting. So how many people did anyone ever tell you about approximately how many people hike this trail yearly, or?
Yeah, I think it's about 45,000 people that do
Wow.
it per year. And I happened to hit a magnificent stretch of weather, which was lovely. It can be quite wet and quite cold, but so I had brought layers of clothes to wear, and that was nice. But I only wore my puffy jacket once, and I hiked in tights and lightweight pants and t-shirts most of the time. So I got a really, really nice stretch of a week of weather.
That's good, yeah. So, okay, that's a pretty impressive feat right there. So what is something that you would like to do that most people would say you're crazy?
Oh, well, I have a hiking thing that's on my bucket list, and I need to do it sooner than later, and that's hiking Kilimanjaro.
Oh, wow. That would be, oh my gosh. That is a big bucket list item. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, I think the hiking is not what scares me, it's more the altitude.
right.
And but there's some good outfits that go up there. And I would definitely, that's something I learned in it like Kilimanjaro would. I would definitely do the longer way up and adjust more slowly.
Right. Yeah.
You know, the
Well, if
other
you're,
thing, go ahead.
no, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, the other thing I'd like to do is the Santiago Trail in Portugal. I think that would
Okay.
be a really cool thing to do as well. So
Yeah.
it's a pilgrimage trail. I heard about it, but then I learned about it a lot more. You know, my experience was with Max Adventures,
Mhm.
and they're out. Their headquarters are in Glasgow, and they've been doing these self-guided hikes for over 20 years, and they are really amazing. And you know, you get um, an app on your phone, and it works offline as well. And it shows you you're basically a blue dot, and it shows you exactly where to go. And then not only that, it also highlights your observation points that you might want to be interested in. It tells you a little bit about the history, and if you want to delve in more, you can go down a little rabbit hole and learn more about that. So that was super fun. And then they carry your bags. You know, see, this is a really important thing. I just had a day pack with me. So there are people that carry everything on their back, but my bag got picked up in the morning after breakfast, and then I got to my destination in the late afternoon, and my bag was there. So that was absolutely fabulous.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. And that takes a lot of load off of you so you can move more efficiently and quickly. Yeah, that's
Right.
true. Well, good. So tell me about your company that your business that you have. The name
So
of it is, go,
mhm.
go
So
ahead, the name.
my business is called Age Up Well. And that's a little bit of a twist on my swimming career, because we quote unquote age up every 5 years, and you want to do that well. So when I was looking for a name for my business, that kind of sprung out to me, because I want to help people age up well into the next decades of life or the next years in life. And I do physical therapy type work, you know, if people are recovering from things or they need rehabilitation or ongoing therapy, I certainly do that. I have clients who live with spinal cord injuries that I see multiple times a week, and I keep them going. I have people who have had orthopedic issues or have certain disease processes going on, like Parkinson's or MS, that need treatment plans that are ongoing, and then insurance really does not cover that. Again, it's a preventative piece of that. And then I also coach and work with clients who just want to do better, maybe get ready to do a hike like this. And how do you prepare for that? And then go have fun, because it's not fun if you can't do it, or if your
Right.
joints ache or your muscles are achy. And then I also work with more high performance people, um, in sports, whether it's triathlons or marathon runners or swimmers, that just want to get better or want to stay in the sport and be sustainable. So they might have a nagging injury that they really need to take care of so that they can keep going, not just tomorrow, but in 5 years and 10 years.
Right. I like how you took the age up and made it into your business name and age up well. That's really clever. And I think that just says so much about you, your outlook, your mindset, because I'm sure you run into some people that hit certain ages, whether it's 50, whether it's 60, 65, whatever it may be. My big year was 27 that killed me for some reason. I have no idea why. Nothing else has, but 27 was hard for some reason. But but when you get to the like 50s and up, you'll see so many people that just have a mental just block about being that age, and it affects them so negatively if they don't deal with it.
Yeah, you know, it's an interesting point, right? Because if we don't, I love my birthdays, and I think it's a privilege to age, because
Right.
not everybody has that privilege. And if we have that privilege, we should do the best we can with it. And it's, we want to fight the aging process that slows us down, but we want to enjoy aging.
That's a
I
good
think there's
point.
nothing, I really look at it as a privilege having a birthday every year and being healthy and being able to move the way I do and being able to do the things I do. And I can't go back. I can't turn the clock back to 40 and 30 and 20, and maybe I wouldn't want to.
I
Uh,
would,
you know?
Yeah.
but I can look and prepare myself to be better. And what I tell my clients often is, this was my age up here as far as swimming went, and it was a big one. I turned 60, and I look at it as a I'm training and living in 60, but I'm really training for 70, 80, 90, and 100.
Right.
Because what I put in my health bank today, that is what's going to sustain me moving forward. And there are days, the last thing I want to do is get up early on a busy day and go to the gym, or when it's cold outside and foggy, the last thing I want to do is jump in the pool at 7 o'clock in the morning or earlier. But I do it because, like your mother-in-law,
I was
if
gonna
you
say,
stop, then why, then what's your excuse tomorrow?
yeah,
And that is putting stuff into my health bank. And I think it's a concept that few people have embraced. A lot of people are very worried about that bank account when they retire, and they prepare for that. But the problem with that is I know a lot of these people, you can have a very big bank account and at 70 or at 80, but if you can't move and you
right,
can't enjoy life with your grandkids or your spouse or with friends, or do what gives you satisfaction, and what are your passions, whatever that is, whether that's golf or whether that's scuba diving, or whether that's, well, probably not scuba diving at 80, but swimming or walking or hiking or bike riding, or just going out with friends and walking your dog, well, having a dog and being able to take care of it.
right.
That is what's important.
That's those very good points too, because we do see a lot of people that get a certain age, have the money to do what they want to do, but physically they're not able to do it. And that's disappointing as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I have a great example of that. I have two clients who, one I was working with, and she is now in Italy, and she hired me to work with her for a couple of months so that she could get ready for her trip with her granddaughters to go to Italy and be able to manage the cobblestones and to not hold everybody back, and to have the balance and the confidence to do that. And then I have another couple, and they go to Paris and France every year, and they just love it there, and they like to travel together, and they're in their 80s. And I work with them so that they can go again next year and stay fit enough to travel and do that. So, just staying fit and healthy in order to travel is a big deal, to be able to manage airports and all of that.
Oh, that's really good. I tell you what, our time is almost up here, but the podcast went completely different than I planned originally, and I'm glad it did because I've really enjoyed this, and this is good motivation for me because I have slacked off from the gym lately. I've slacked off from eating properly. So many things that I've slacked off from, and you kind of like just did a little wake up call with me today, and I
All right,
appreciate
go, go, go.
it. So, all right. Well, thank you so much for being on. We're going to put up your information on the screen so that people can contact you. So, if they want to reach out to you about your business, Age Up Well, what can you kind of tell them how you can benefit?
I actually work with people. I even will have some clients in Europe, so I can work
Oh,
with
wow.
people virtually very easily,
Okay.
and so that's not a problem. And close by, I work with in person. I do have a couple clients in Los Angeles, and sometimes I go down there and work with them. But mostly, obviously, with this podcast going all over, I am happy to work with people virtually with Zoom.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. I've thoroughly enjoyed this. And like I said, a little wake up call that I needed that I didn't realize I was going to get. So I
Well,
got more out of it than you realize.
thank
So,
you, Rick. I really appreciate it, and thanks for having me on.
oh, you're welcome. And that concludes our episode of Lux Life Discovered. We look forward to seeing you next time.
Check out Lux Life Discovered on Facebook and Instagram and on 30a.tv. See you next time on Lux Life Discovered.